So this is our second video on the topic of butchering a turkey to be brined and then smoked. Now, we've removed all the parts from the carcass, and the carcass and any parts that aren't useful for brining and smoking are now in a stock pot. And here we have the legs, and this is one of the more interesting and challenging tasks from a butchery point of view. Because what my goal is to remove this skin from the leg and thigh without puncturing it. Now, if I puncture it a little bit, it's not the end of the world, but perfection entails taking it off in one whole piece, because what I want to do is reserve this skin. It's best to keep it in the fridge until you're about ready to use it, because as I mentioned before, when flesh gets warm, it gets harder to work with. So keep it in the fridge, keep it cool. And the reason we want to keep it is that we're going to debone these thighs and drumsticks, and then roll them and put the skins back on top of them and tie them almost like a pancetta, or I don't know what other, I'm sure you're all familiar in grocery stores the way the butchery department ties a roast. Well, this is what it's going to look like, if you can imagine that. And you'll have to wait and see in the third video of this series how to butcher a turkey to be brined and smoked. So you use your hand and use your knife just to get underneath that skin, because sometimes it's going to stick onto the flesh. And you see I'm pulling quite hard, but I'm not pulling haphazardly, because as I said, I don't want to rip this skin. So I've got those pieces off relatively easily. And I'm just turning it. It's inside out when you pull it off, so I changed that, and now I'm making two cuts along the bones of this thigh and drumstick. What I'm going to do is cut straight through the flesh and down to the center of the bone, if you can imagine that. And once I get to the center of each bone, I'm going to sort of cut around it. I don't want to cut through the flesh, though. I want to take this piece off, these muscles away from the bone in one solid piece without putting holes in it. So you see I've got the thigh bone exposed, and I'm sort of cutting around it. Now I'm going to deepen my cut on the drumstick right down to the bone and along the side of the bone. Now I'm going to go right underneath and cut through the thickest parts of the tendons. If you can imagine, this is the leg of the turkey. So the tendons at that drumstick at the end are quite strong, supporting all of that weight. So that's what we just cut through. See, I'm getting around the knee joint with my knife and sort of pulling the flesh away from the bone. Just finishing up the last area right around the knee joint. I haven't punctured any holes through this piece of meat. Okay, there you have it. That's the leg bone in the stock pot. If you saw my my video how to butcher a chicken, you saw this exact technique, and I suggested then, and I suggest now, and I do this about 100% of the time, because those bones have value from a thrifty point of view, as far as getting as much out of the purchase, or out of your purchased chicken or turkey, as you possibly can. And I'm talking money, utilize those bones. Don't just cook them off with the bone in and have somebody gnaw on them and then go in the garbage. Get them out and put them in the stock pot and enrich the quality of your turkey stock with nutrients and flavor. And you'll be happy you did, because what you've invested in this turkey or this chicken goes a lot longer. After removing the bones, you're not complete yet. You have quite a few large tendons in these turkey legs, and they're not that pleasant to eat. I'm sure all of you have gnawed on drumsticks, and a lot of people like drumsticks, and I do too. But those tendons are quite strong, so we want to remove those tendons, because what we're going to produce is, as I've mentioned, sort of the shape of a pancetta, which is sort of a round smoked bacon, which is tied up very tightly and then smoked and hung. And we're not producing exactly the same product because it's a turkey leg, but we want to produce a product that we can slice off very easily. And if we have these large tendons, like the ones in my hand, if we have those large tendons throughout it, we're not going to be able to slice it into nice, perfectly round discs, and we're defeating the purpose. So, bottom line, cooking from scratch is, if you're going to do it, go all the way with it and do it right. And this is one of those little details which is going to make you much happier with the end result. So, as you saw, I start with the uncut side first. And on the drumstick portion of the uncut side, there are 3 very large tendons, sort of an inch apart from each other. They were all running down towards the end of the drumstick. Imagine the Achilles tendon, if you will, of the turkey. Well, there's about 3 very large tendons where the turkey's, let's say, Achilles tendon would be. And we want to remove those. So that's what I started with. And now as you can see, I've flipped the turkey leg over, and I've began to remove smaller tendons from the cut side. And there's probably 5 to 8 that you want to remove in there, and beyond that, you can probably leave it. I mean, you could search and maybe find more than 8, but I would say the really large ones on the cut side, there are about 8 of them. You see, I'm sort of pulling them with my finger and then scraping. Or if I can get underneath it like I am here, I do so, and then cut along it. These tendons have value also in your stock, and making turkey stock is going to significantly enhance the quality of your turkey gravy. So I say, debone these turkeys, cook the individual parts perfectly, use the bones for gravy, and serve the best turkeys that you've ever served for the same price that you've paid in the past. You get much, much more bang for your buck by doing this, despite your labor, but it is your labor, and something's got to give. You've got to work hard to be thrifty. So we'll get into it more in the third video. I hope you enjoy.